All right, and welcome to another video where we talk about artifacts in the Shades of Dominion. Now, yesterday we went briefly over what artifacts are in the Shades of Dominion, and we talked even a little briefly about creating spell templates out of artifacts. But there's a step before that that you might actually want to be interested in, and that is called enchanting. Now, when an artifact that has not been made into a template, now when using an artifact that has not been made into a template, a Shade Mage can enchant it by expending one sip level from their Shade Vessel. And when you have the Shade, there are mechanics that you will be able to measure how much Shade you have access to. A sip level from your Shade Vessel is basically a roll from the Shade Vessel to bring the Shade out from the Shade Vessel and into you, so that you can then cast your spells, so that the Shade is in your possession physically. And focusing the Shade into the artifact for 1 hour. By doing so, you can either add a +1 bonus to all rolls made with that artifact, so you can make the artifact more potent either in combat or with a skill test. You're giving that artifact a bonus in using it. Or you can add an aspect spell from your library to the artifact. After enchanting an artifact this way, the cost to make an artifact template out of the artifact increases by the amount and type of stain shade per aspect spell of the corresponding type, and or in addition to the bonuses incurred on the artifact, and we'll go over that at a later video. For example, if an artifact is enchanted by the light aspect spell, the additional cost of the artifact template would increase by 1 purity shade, in addition to its unstained bonus cost and the library point needed to imprint the artifact onto your shade vessel. So, for some examples, we have. Hang on one sec. There we go. Flight. Flight is a good example uh, of an aspect spell that is in the rulebook, um, and it basically gives the person or item you cast it on a flying ability. And yes, what you are thinking in your head is absolutely correct. You can attach that aspect spell, that enchantment, onto any item, whether it's your sword, whether it's the 50 feet of rope, or whether it's your armor. As long as you have these items in your possession and that item has that enchantment on it, you will be in possession of that power of that aspect while it is in your possession. And you didn't have to cast any shade to do it, other than to have the item on you, because you have enchanted the item to permanently have that static effect. Pretty cool, right? I think that's awesome. I think this is a fantastic, little nifty trick for our shade mages and players to be able to go through whatever their aspect spells are. And this applies to pretty much any static keyword or enchantment you've seen in Magic, whether it is flying, whether it's death touch, whether it's first strike, whether it's vigilance, whether it's uh, lifelink, all the things can be enchanted into the items you carry, so that you're not constantly recasting aspect spells to give yourself that buff, that bonus. So that's really neat. This is enchanting artifacts. And just so we have some understanding as to what this would look like. So you have um, any any artifact that you want. Let's just go with something very basic. Short sword. Short sword has an attack roll, an attack skill, and it has a defense skill. Now, if you were to add a, shall we say, a magical, quote unquote, magical ability, it would just go right here and it would say flight. If you would add a bonus to it, every roll with your attack skill would get +1, depending. Let's say you spent 2 sip levels and you did this to your sword, to your armor. With armor, it would increase your protection points. But again, the more protection points you have, uh, the more nerfed your magic is. So I know that seems unfair, but it's really not. So what this would look like is a channeled spell. So we have the spell template now. We have the spell name. Short sword. And then it would be a spell type, which is channeled. Then you would have the effect. Create a short sword. With flight and +1 to attack. To attack and damage. That is something that I do need to stress. When you add +1 to your enchanting weapons, it does add to the attack and damage rolls. To attack and damage rolls, and because you did that, we're going to do spell battery. So normally this would just any basic sword with no bonuses would just be a 2+ because oh, I forgot the most important part. Shade cost. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So, because you did all this, just draw the line here. So because you did all this, you have flight and you have the attack skill. Now, if you hadn't done all that, it would be 0. Okay? It would cost you nothing to just animate this thing. Actually, no. It would cost you 1, I believe. 1. I don't want to get your hopes up. It would cost you 1. Now, but because you added these things up here, because you added the flight, because you added the attack skill, the +1 bonus to your attack skill and damage, it would be so it would be a 2 unstained plus an aether. And that would make the spell battery a 3+. So that's an enchanted short sword spell template. If you were to take this enchanted item, whichever one that it is, and of course, whatever bonus it gives, like if it was for the 50 feet of rope, it would be like your athletic skill to climb it. Yeah, we get really abstract when it comes to that. But any role used on like an item that has an aspect or a bonus, that's what applies. Like it is an improved and enchanted item. Uh, Not just weapon, not just armor, but you also do the same thing with your utility items, which is kind of which is pretty awesome. So that is what all that looks like. Now, tomorrow we're just going to rehash some of this information. As always, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. And this is a starting. This is something that is best done at character creation because that's when you have your shade vessels at its fullest. You're capable of. You're not so much worried about your shade management, and you'll be able to have active static effects on you constantly rather than having to cast shade for uh, the more trivial things. And I really wish my players had known this when they started. So I'm giving it to all of you because I have learned better. Uh, but that's it. Please like and share the video. Go ahead and smash the like button. Do your thing on wherever you are. But this is how you enchant artifacts in the Shades of Dominion. You you just focus that shade in there and make it beefier and better and have all the added effects. Now, a word about those aspects. The character you make, the shade mage you make, will be limited in what kind of aspect spells they have access to. So that's going to be another important factor at character creation. But other than that, uh, I hope you guys learned something. So let's go throw some shade. Bye bye.